Part 86. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 851. I slept for 20 minutes and recovered a lot of energy, and then spent 15 minutes recalling and sorting out the entire trial process. Before going to court, she ate 2 slices of pizza, drank some water, and felt completely revived. Back in the courtroom, the atmosphere was still solemn and solemn. The trial has come to an end. The prosecuting prosecutor will make closing arguments first. Although the prosecutor has realized that there are doubts in the case, the necessary procedures must still be completed meticulously. He walked up to the jury, pondering over his words, as if thinking about which sentence to start with. The defendant in this case, Mr. Chen Beiyan, the heir of the Chen Group, I think everyone should be very familiar with it. Before he was imprisoned, Beijing the entertainment news of Lingxi has never lacked him. He is rich, arrogant, and at the same time, he has a lot of affairs, even after he got married. The voice suddenly rose, and the prosecutor continued, even after he got married, there were still endless rumors about him. His marriage was in crisis, and he had numerous quarrels with his wife, Caixin, and even fought. The servants at home once heard him cursing at his wife over and over, "Why don't you die?" And, "Damn it, I'm going to kill you." Then one day, they started arguing again. This time, Chen Beiyan lost control of his emotions. He picked up the fruit knife on the coffee table, killed Caixin, and cut off her head cruelly, pretending to be a murder case. When he fled, he was flustered, unaware that he was seen by the maid at home. He buried his head in the walnut grove, and then, worried about being discovered, he hurried to the villa in the western suburbs, where no one lives on weekdays, which is the best place to hide the corpse. And when he hid well, he was arrested by the police on the way back. After the prosecutor finished speaking, he paused for a moment, looked at the members of the jury, and said in a deep voice, "Today the defense has produced a lot of evidence, insect eggs, pesticides, various reports and written materials, but I hope everyone understands that the land under our feet, there are always things that we can't predict. Maybe the moth really laid its eggs in the flower bed. Maybe that little pesticide ingredient came from the moth. These are all unknown. Now, as we sit here, we know very clearly that the maid heard Chen Beiyan and Caixin's quarrel with her own ears. Seeing Chen Beiyan escape with his own eyes. However, the defense lawyer told us that the maid heard wrongly, and the maid read wrongly. Witnesses are not to be trusted. Shall we trust a moth? Do you believe it? At least I don't believe it. I only believe that everyone here will give the most rational and fair decision." The last sentence of the voice is sonorous and powerful. The prosecutor finished his statement, turned around and returned to his seat. His eyes fell on Muzi. Muzi smiled at him. The prosecutor felt his scalp go numb. He was seeing junior lawyers as criminal defense attorneys for the first time, and knew nothing about nervous people. Muzi stood up and walked towards the jury with a slight smile on her face. "The prosecuting prosecutor's interpretation of the story is great," Muzi said with a smile. "In order to avoid boredom, I won't tell the story. How about we do a math problem?" It was 8:43 p.m. when the maid called the police, and it was 9:24 p.m. when the police arrested Chen Beiyan. That is to say, the time between Mr. Chen Beiyan's departure from the crime scene and his arrest was only 41 minutes. Do you know what happened in these short 41 minutes? He wanted to rush to the walnut grove 40 kilometers away, dig a hole, bury his head, and then he felt that something was wrong, so he dug his head out again, and then rushed to the villa in the western suburbs 60 kilometers away, dug a hole, buried his head again, and after doing all this, I went to the road 10 kilometers away and was caught by the police. Oh, by the way, he still needs to take a shower and put on clean clothes during the rush. Because when the head is severed, the blood will splash all over him. 41 minutes to shower and change clothes, and complete a journey of 110 kilometers. Ladies and gentlemen, please take a serious look at the doc. Do you think my client is a bird? Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 852. The audience was silent, and people's eyes followed Musei's guidance and fell on Chen Bayan in the dock. Today, why is Mr. Chen Bayan standing in this position? Musei walked to the side of the dock and watched the jury. Because of the maid's identification? This maid stays in the kitchen and the room every day. She doesn't know that Chen Bayan has a scar on his jaw, nor does he know that Chen Bayan has a mole on his ear, but she can recognize it just by a hasty back that lasts for 1.5 seconds. The other party is your male master? Or because Chen Bayan's panicked expression was very suspicious when he was arrested? When you are driving home at night and you are suddenly stopped by the police, the strong and dazzling flashlight shines straight into your face. Do you panic? Yes, everyone will panic. So what are we left with now? Nothing. Nothing. No blood of the deceased was found on him, no blood was found in his car, no physical evidence. The reason why Chen Bayan is standing here today is only because the maid claimed that she saw him. What actually happened? The maid heard a man and a woman arguing, and she subconsciously thought that the man was Chen Bayan. When she came out of the room, she saw the man's back, which was similar in shape and clothes to Chen Bayan, and her psychological hint made her even more sure that the murderer was Chen Bayan. Please pay attention, it is a psychological suggestion. So when she called the police, she said without hesitation that Chen Bayan killed his wife. You go and catch him. In fact, there was only one witness who was overly panicked, a witness who hadn't even seen the murderer's face, and a witness who thought that Chen Bayan was having a good time and was prejudiced against him. She saw the back of the man in the black suit, that's all. That's all. Musei took a deep breath and let it out slowly, her tone became gentle again. Some people say that the meaning of trial is justice. How do we get justice? It's questioning. Musei's closing statement ended and she returned to her seat. The judge tapped the gavel and announced that the jury would leave for discussion. While waiting, Chen Kaling rushed over and stood with Chen Nanfan and Chen's parents, anxiously waiting for the result. Musei questioned her with his eyes. Chen Kaling looked at her and nodded, which meant that he had reached an agreement with Lister. The integrity of the lawyer is guaranteed. As long as the confidentiality agreement is signed, Chen Nanfan's life experience will never be known to the world. This is the best result for Chen Bayan. 20 minutes later, the jury reached a consensus that the prosecution had insufficient evidence, and Chen Bayan was acquitted. When the judge finished announcing the result, Chen Nanfan rushed to Chen Bayan like a small rocket, jumped onto him, and hugged his neck tightly. Father. This time, the prison guards did not stop her. When Chen Bayan returned to his family with his daughter in his arms, Ms. Chen wept with joy, and Chen Kaling and Mr. Chen were also very excited. The reporters gathered around to take pictures, focusing on Chen Bayan and Musei. Mr. Chen Bayan, after 2 years, I have finally cleared my grievances. Do you have anything to say? Will you file a lawsuit against the relevant departments for compensation? Why did you boldly choose a junior lawyer as your criminal defense lawyer? What made you decide? Miss Musei has achieved good results in court trials one after another. Is there any big law firm offering you an olive branch? Do you think your goal is a big lawyer? The shooting lights kept flickering, and the reporters kept asking questions. Suddenly, Mr. Chen stopped and said to countless reporters, "Thank you, Ms. Musei. Thank you for the jury. Thank you for the judge." After saying 3 thanks in a row, at the end of the sentence, the 60-year-old man raised his voice with unbearable excitement. The murderer will never escape the law. The injustice will eventually be cleared. The high-pitched emotions startled Musei. Chen Kaling seemed to have expected it, smiled and whispered to Muzi, our family started in the publishing industry, and my grandfather is a literati in the old days. He has given many student mobilization speeches, and my father also has some inheritance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 853. The news of the victory in the trial immediately spread throughout the internet. It also reached the presidential palace. When Mr. Sidhu looked at the news in shock and couldn't believe it, Muzi did it alone. Indeed, it was clear from the news photos that there was only Muzi on the defense seat, no deputy, no assistant, just her alone. The old lady was also at a loss. How is it possible? The Chen family lost the lawsuit twice. She is a child, is she better than a barrister? The two were puzzled, and wanted to ask Muzi to clarify. They called and found out that Muzi was invited by the Chen family to be a guest, and Chen Kailing did not come back. When it was dinner time, I called again to ask, and said that Musicking Jiang's friends were helping her to celebrate, and the party might not end until midnight. Chen Kailing is back. But she arrived at the court at the end of the trial, and the specific circumstances were not clear. Mr. Sidhu and Mrs. Chen couldn't get an answer from Chen Kailing, and they were even more curious, wondering how Muzi did it. How can there be a girl who doesn't come home after playing until midnight? The old lady muttered, I'm not afraid of danger, the world is in chaos now. Before hearing the old lady's complaints, Chen Kailing would feel bored in her heart, but today nothing can hinder her good mood, and she immediately said with a smile, it's rare for her friends to come to Jingling, and one of them is a police officer. Know if there is something to do, besides, aren't there bodyguards with you? The old lady's complaints are completely habitual. Years of character development have made her habitually picky and complain no matter what she faces. Sometimes she complains for the sake of complaining, not really angry in her heart. After all, Muzi won the lawsuit, which can be regarded as helping Sidhu Yan indirectly. The old lady was actually in a good mood. She heard Chen Kailing's explanation, curled her lips, and said nothing more. Muzi really didn't come back until midnight after playing. It was too late to get up at breakfast time the next day. The whole family stood by the dining table, waiting for Muzi to go downstairs to eat breakfast, and wanted to ask what happened yesterday, but she slept until the sun was high and didn't get up. The old lady's tone was sour, it's really big to be able to sleep on such a big matter. At this time, the servant came over and said that the old Mr. and Mrs. Chen were here. This is the father-in-law and mother-in-law, so Sidhu Yan naturally wanted to entertain her. The housekeeper immediately arranged for servants to prepare tea and snacks. The whole family of the Chen family came. Chen Bayan and Chen Nanfan were there. Feng Feng grabbed candies from the coffee table and ate them. Seeing old Mr. Sidhu and Mrs. Sidhu coming over, he immediately shouted in a pretty way, Grandpa, Grandma. The old lady's heart is about to melt immediately. What a lovely little girl, it's a pity that she is someone else's granddaughter. The Chen family brought many gifts, and they came to express their gratitude to Muzi. Chen Kailing smiled and said, Dad, Mom, you came too early. Zizi played with her friends all night yesterday, and she is still sleeping now. Why don't you hurry up and wake the lady up? The old lady said to the servant beside her. The second elder of the Chen family hurriedly waved his hands and said, No, no. Let Ms. Mu rest. For the sake of Bayan, she has worked so hard, she should rest more. The words are quite respectful. Old Mr. Sidhu smiled and said politely, You are elders, there is no rule for elders to wait for younger generations. It's okay, it's okay. We came here just to express our thanks in person. How dare we interrupt Miss Mu's rest? Seeing that both sides were talking about their own reasons, Chen Kaling smiled and said, "Why don't I go up and have a look? I can't tell if Zizi is awake now." Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 854. Chen Kaling went upstairs to Mu Zi's room, while the rest of the people sat in the living room and talked. The content of the conversation basically revolved around music. The Chen family kept boasting, and the Sidhu family exchanged modest and polite greetings. Mr. Chen said, "Thanks to Ms. Muzi for obtaining the autopsy report from the forensic doctor, which proves that someone else dug the pit and buried the body. Otherwise, my North Shore family would have spent a few years in prison." The old lady asked strangely, "She is a little girl, how did she get past the police to get the autopsy report?" "Because the deceased is my mother." Chen Nanfan regained his energy when he mentioned this, and said with a smile, "Sister Muzi, I said that although she is not her own, in name, as a family member of the deceased, I can entrust a lawyer to intervene. Once you have signed the commission letter, you can read it." Sister Muzi is amazing. She felt something was wrong when she saw it. She said the autopsy report was too simple, either the forensic doctor was lazy, or the police deleted some information, and then we went directly to the forensic doctor. Ask him for the original version of the report. The old lady was dumbfounded. In those few days, she took you out every day, didn't she go to play? You went to find a forensic doctor. Chen Nanfan pursed his mouth, and said aggrievedly, "Grandma Sidhu, we didn't go to play, we were investigating the case very hard, and traveled to many places." "That Feng Feng is very powerful." Sidhu Yan smiled and praised the little girl. "At such a young age, I can help you investigate the case with Sister Muzi. Feng Feng is really amazing." "Of course. I'm very good. Sister Muzi is so useless when catching insects. I was so scared that I cried," Chen Nanfan triumphantly said. "Afterwards, I caught a few bugs and made my sister happy." No cried. Everyone was at a loss. How could they suddenly want to catch bugs? "You child," the second elder of the Chen family couldn't laugh or cry, rubbing his granddaughter's head. "How can you say that about your sister Muzi?" Sidhu Yan asked Xiao Nanfan, "Why do you want to catch bugs?" "There is an old grandfather," Chen Nanfan recalled in a daze. "My sister said he was an entomologist and wanted that old grandfather to help us identify the eggs in the autopsy photos, but the old grandfather said he was very busy, I didn't have time, and then somehow, it became us to help the old man catch bugs." Chen Nanfan curled his lips and said, "That old man is really bad. He asked us to catch a certain kind of bug in a ravine. We caught it for several days before he was willing to help us with the appraisal report. He's so stingy." When Sidhu Yan heard this, his heart sank suddenly. He thought of those few days when Muzi always came back with a disheveled face. The faces of Mr. Sidhu and Mrs. Sidhu also changed subtly. They must have thought of the same point. At that time, they were all focused on preparing for Ningyue, and they didn't ask or care about Muzi. They only thought that Muzi and Chen Nanfan went out to have fun, and they didn't expect that Muzi would mess around in the mountains every day for an appraisal report. Catch bugs in the woods. She should have fallen down, the dirt stained her clothes, and her hair was messed up on the branches. She and Chen Nanfan were looking for insects in the crevices of stones and among the branches and leaves. Maybe she would be scared to scream by the insects that suddenly appeared somewhere, and she even cried. I was in a mess, but I didn't say anything. After I came back, I cleaned myself silently and didn't ask anyone for help. She would rather trust a 10-year-old girl than anyone in Sidhu's family." Sidhu Yan couldn't tell what it was like in his heart. Mrs. Chen patted her granddaughter's head and said with a smile, "This kid always wanted to be a detective again, and this time his dream has come true." Chen Nanfan said, "I don't want to be a detective anymore. I look for people to issue certificates and reports everywhere. It's not the same as in cartoons. It's not fun at all. Everyone was amused by the children's words. Sidu Yan also laughed, feeling bitter in his heart. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 855. When Chen Kailing went up to look for Mu Zi just woke up. Knowing that Chen Beian and the elders of the Chen family came to visit her, Mu Zi washed up briefly, changed her clothes and went downstairs, and exchanged pleasantries inevitably. In fact, Mu Zi is not used to this kind of entertainment, but because of politeness, she had to deal with it bravely. They boasted about Mu Zi, and they talked about the banquet at the presidential palace. Their emotions were high, and they said they would definitely come to join them. Mu Zi is very happy. One more person who recognizes her identity will be more guaranteed when she returns to Xinjiang in the future. After the Chen family left, Mu Zi went upstairs to her room, and met Ning Yue in the long corridor. Ning Yue's eyes were gloomy and cold. You must be very proud. Ning Yue stared at Mu Zi coldly, her voice was very soft. At the banquet the day after tomorrow, you will become the much anticipated daughter of the president. Tell everyone around you to be grateful to you. I really underestimated you, Mu Zi. Mu Zi smiled, ignored her, and passed Ning Yue. Ning Yue's face became even more gloomy. I won't let you be proud for too long, she gritted her teeth. Cracks appeared on her cold face, revealing hatred and hatred. Mu Zi stopped, turned around, and looked at Ning Yue with great interest. Why do you say that? Isn't it you who gave me a chance to be proud? Mu Zi approached Ning Yue with a warm smile on her face. Guess why I won this lawsuit? Her smile made Ning Yue feel that she had malicious intentions, subconsciously stepped back half a step, and looked at Mu Zi vigilantly. I have to thank you, Mu Zi said with a smile. The barrister Lister you hired has never been defeated, and his reputation is so great that even the murderer is afraid. When he heard that Lister was going to help Chen Beian reverse the case, he was afraid that he would be accused. Get it out, quickly dig out the buried head, and quietly bury it in the villa in the western suburbs. So that the evidence is solid and the case cannot be reversed. I guess he should have gone there with Chen Beian and mistakenly thought it was Chen Beian's villa, but he didn't know that it was actually Chen Beian's sister and brother-in-law's. Now that they couldn't frame him, they helped me. I should really thank you all. Ning Yue's eyes widened in shock. Although you are quite annoying, but... Mu Zi moved closer to her ear and whispered, you are really my lucky star. Ning Yue, do the math yourself, you have already made a mistake. How many times have you fulfilled me? You. Ning Yue blushed. Mu Zi straightened up, her smiling eyes were bright, and her tone was joking. So, I advise you not to make trouble at the banquet, because no matter how hard you try to help me, I will never repay you. Ning Yue was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. She wanted to tear the arrogant Mu Zi alive. But at the same time, she actually listened to Mu Zi's words. It's really evil. Could it be that no matter what she does, she ends up making wedding dresses for others? Ning Yue didn't dare to act rashly anymore. At dinner time, the old lady asked the servant to prepare a bowl of bird's nest porridge for Mu Zi. Mu Zi was frightened. Not only Mu Zi, but everyone at the table was frightened, and Sidu Yan stared blankly at his old mother, wondering if the old lady had a new idea to make things difficult. But no, the bird's nest is sweet and soft, and the old lady is unusually kind and friendly. Today I met Ms. Chen and chatted a lot. Although the old lady doesn't like Mu Zi, it is always a happy thing to be praised that her child is smart and capable. Especially Ms. Chen said that Mu Zi's eyebrows and eyes are somewhat similar to her when she was young. The old lady was more and more delighted. 7 of Sidu Yan's facial features resembled that of the old lady, and Mu Zi looked very much like Sidu Yan, so there were some similarities with the old lady. This is the wonder of blood relationship. No matter how harsh the scolding is on weekdays, as long as you mention these things, you will feel kind. It takes a lot of time to investigate the case. Eat more tonics. Didn't you like to eat fresh ginseng a few days ago? Ask someone to buy some, the old lady said kindly. Muzi looked at her arm silently, and got goosebumps. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 856. The old lady looked at Muzi, and she didn't know if it was because of her mood, but the more she looked at it, the more pleasing she was, as if she really saw her own shadow when she was young. Muzi won the lawsuit, helped Sidu Yan resolve the crisis again, and made her very respectable in front of Mrs. Chen. Now the old lady's affection for Muzi has doubled in her heart. The old lady said, your child usually eats too little. You can't rely on tonics alone. You can't miss 3 meals a day. If you don't have any dishes that suit your appetite, go to the kitchen and explain. I heard that you young people like to eat Western food. The cook at home can also cook. Rambling, the tone is full of care from the elders. Muzi ate his bird's nest porridge in suspense and listened silently. Everyone else at the table had subtle expressions. The old lady also mentioned that Muzi's trip to Jingling had already delayed the start of school for more than half a month. Why not go back? Wouldn't it be better to stay in Jingling to study? And actively listed several good middle schools. Mr. Sidu finally couldn't bear it anymore, coughed a few times in a low voice, and signaled the old lady to stop talking. With such a sudden change in attitude, even Mr. Sidu couldn't help but wonder what the old lady was up to. Zizi and her adoptive mother have a good relationship, so they can't just stay here without saying anything, and she only has half a semester left, and she will come to Jingling after finishing her studies, so don't worry about the last half year, Mr. Sidu said. The old lady frowned, a little unhappy. Because Mr. Sidu mentioned Muzi's adoptive mother, the old lady naturally thought of Muzi's life experience, how Muzi was born and then adopted. That's right, Jinwo and Yunwo don't have their own dog kennels. No matter how you live here, you can't get used to it. Then go back and honor your adoptive mother as soon as possible, so that people don't think you hate the poor and love the rich. As soon as the disgust came up, the old lady's tone of voice immediately became harsh. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. This is the old lady. I was really not used to that just now. The atmosphere on the dining table finally returned to normal. Muzi held the spoon painted on white porcelain and slowly ate the bird's nest porridge in the bowl, feeling that it tasted great. The news of Chen Baiyan's acquittal, after a day's fermentation, has become a hot topic on the internet, and countless topics and hot words have been extended. Experts humorously commented that this is the first case in the history of Huaya Kingdom. Under the news, people who eat melons have spoken one after another. Haijun, look, these eggs are also very important. Shy little white lotus, eggs are really important. Accident, there are eggs. Binglan Muo, there is an egg for. Egg use has become a buzzword this year. Netizens have posted photos of their own eggs, including silkworm eggs raised in childhood, insect eggs accidentally found on the roadside, and fish roe pulled out when eating fish. Those who really couldn't find eggs took out eggs to make up the number, and some even took ultrasound photos of their own pregnancy. In short, the egg bearer is the winner. Zhang Xinyuan called Muzi and asked her when she would come back to class, and told her, everyone is ready. Muzi couldn't help but laugh, don't make trouble. She is also convinced by this group of jokers, why every time she has a serious lawsuit, she can be caught and ridiculed. Received several more calls to laugh at her one after another. Another day passed, and when she woke up again, she realized that today was the banquet day. Today, Sidu Yan will announce that she is his daughter. Just like what Ning Yue said, after she achieves her goal, she will return to Qingjiang to face everything she needs to face. In the face of Mu Zhening's old grievances, Huo Zheng's eye-catching eyes, and Murong Cheng's life and death. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 857. The banquet officially started at 6 o'clock in the evening. The presidential palace, which has been prepared for a whole month for this purpose, broke away from the majesty and solemnity in the daytime, and was luxuriously and exquisitely decorated. The roses that can be seen everywhere added to the romantic temperament of the dinner. Mu Zi wore a long silver-white evening dress with a layer of lavender gauze wrapped around the skirt. When she walked, she seemed to be surrounded by mist, light and graceful. Sidu Yan dressed her up like a princess. He and Chen Kailing brought Muzi by their side, introduced every distinguished guest to her, and let everyone know how much they value and love their daughter. Everything at the banquet was perfect: perfect food, perfect singing and dancing, perfect guests, and even the starry sky tonight was extraordinarily perfect and shining brightly. In the second half of the dinner, Muzi got a little tired from socializing, so she went back to her room to take a rest. She took off her high heels, and rubbed the soles of her feet with both hands to soothe her tense nerves. When she raised her eyes, she could see the brilliant starry sky outside the glass door. The night in March was cold. Mu Zi opened the glass door, the cold air swept over her body, and her heels in slippers felt cold. Bang, bang. There was a knock on the door. "Please come in," Mu Zi said. Her body leaning against the balcony railing did not move. Sidu Yan opened the door and came in. Seeing him, Mu Zi thought it was because she had rested for too long, so she hurriedly said, "I'll go down soon." "Don't worry, just rest for a while if you feel tired." Sidu Yan smiled softly on his face, walked over and said, "Just go down and show yourself before the end." He was in a good mood today, and everything went well at the banquet, including the old lady, who also cooperated very well and did not show his weird temper in front of the guests. Mu Zi said, "Actually, you should also rest more. The doctor told you that you should try to avoid being in crowded places after you leave the hospital. After all, something like resistance cannot be restored in just a few days." Sidu Yan heard that his daughter was caring about him, and his heart felt warm. He looked up at the starry sky and said, "Your mother and I often looked at the stars like this before." Mu Zi smiled and said, "You must have had a good relationship back then." Sidu Yan's eyes were gentle. "I was young and energetic at that time, and I didn't obey my family's control. I ran away from home to travel around the mountains and rivers. When I came to Qingjiang, I met your mother. It was love at first sight." Puff. Love at first sight. Mu Zi couldn't help laughing. It wasn't that she didn't believe it, it was just that it was a bit unbelievable to put it on her parents. Sidu Yan also smiled, recalling the love of his youth. His smile was a little embarrassed. "Her situation was very similar to mine at the time. Her family ignored her efforts and didn't care about her feelings. On the surface, they seemed to attach great importance to her and doted on her, but in fact, they just regarded her beauty and talent as a kind of capital, and they wanted to put a price on it. Some people climb to the top because of this. What they care about is what benefits Ruan Li can bring to the family, but no one cares about her herself." Sidu Yan looked down at Mu Zi, and laughed at himself. The two young people were determined to fight against their fate. They cherished each other and were proud of their talents, so, ran away together. Mu Zi's eyes widened slightly. "You guys eloped?" "Well, I eloped." Sidu Yan smiled. "We have some money on us, and we want to travel every inch of Wei Kingdom with passion. Your mother also set up a competition to see who has the most transportation methods. Boat, train, car, bicycle, ox cart, on foot, but in the end I lost." "Why, Muzi was puzzled, aren't you two always together? Situ Yan smiled and said, because there is a certain distance, I carried her on my back. Although it ended bleakly in the end, there are also beautiful things in this relationship. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 858. Then. Muzi asked curiously, why did you break up? On the way to Ganga Snow Mountain, I was caught by my father and uncle. Situ Yan recalled the past, and he was no longer as angry as he was when he was young. At that time, he was indeed immature. He thought that the sea and the sky were vast and he could fly freely, but he ignored that his wings were still thin. At that time, I was already with Ruan Li. Although my father was angry, he had no choice but to take us both to Jingling to prepare for the wedding. If it really went so smoothly, then Ruan Li would not leave in anger. Muzi asked, the old lady doesn't like her, so did you make things difficult for her? Situ Yan laughed, it seems that the old lady's bad temper left a deep impression on Muzi, so she took it for granted that the old lady left Ruan Li in anger. The old lady thinks that a woman who elopes with a man has a bad character, and Ruan Li is 4 years older than me. She thinks I shouldn't marry a woman older than herself. She really doesn't like Ruan Li as for making things difficult. Situ Yan smiled and said, you underestimate your mother too much. The old lady made things difficult, but Ruan Li fended her off with a lot of force. She has nothing to do, but the old lady was very angry. Muzi also laughed, the old lady was a bit mean-spirited, but if she really wanted to make things difficult, she probably wouldn't be able to do it. Situ Yan looked at the scenery in the distance, and sighed softly, with a nostalgic expression on his face. Ruan Li left by herself. Situ Yan said, she said that she left with me because she thought I could give her a different life, but she found out that she was wrong, the life she wants now is not what she wants. The woman I like belittled myself to nothing, I was very shocked and angry at the time. Situ Yan lowered his head, looked at Muzi, and said in a deep voice, but I really don't know, she has you in her stomach, if I knew, I would never let things become like this. Muzi didn't make a sound, and looked at the sky full of stars. Maybe Ruan Li didn't know either. On the way back, she found that she was pregnant, and she was arrogant and refused to bow her head to go back, and finally fell into a depressed mood and couldn't get rid of it. It can only be said that good luck tricks people. The father and daughter leaned quietly against the balcony without speaking, and the surrounding air was quiet and cool. Probably to break the silence, Situ Yan pointed to the starry sky and asked in a relaxed tone, do you know what star that is? The Big Dipper. Muzi smiled, I only recognize this. In the starry sky in spring, the Big Dipper is the brightest and most conspicuous star. Situ Yan said, it's not difficult to find other stars. The two stars connecting the mouth of the bucket are extended to 5 times the distance between the two stars, and you will find them. The brighter Polaris, look southwest along the line connecting the other two stars at the mouth of the bucket, and you can find the very bright Xianyuan 14. Extending along the curve of the 4 stars on the bucket handle, you can draw a big arc line. Along this arc you can find the orange bright star Big Horn. Situ Yan moved his hand slowly following the explanation, pointing at the starry sky, continue to the south, and you will find another bright star Spica, and then continue to the southwest, and you will find a quadrilateral composed of 4 small stars. It's Corvus. Corvus. Muzi was stunned, and after a long time murmured, so there really is a Corvus. That's right. Situ Yan looked at the starry sky and continued, this big arc that starts from the handle of the Big Dipper and ends at the constellation Corvus is the famous Great Spring Curve. The big curve of spring includes the brightest and most beautiful stars in spring. Muzi recalled last spring when she and Murong Cheng celebrated their birthday in the villa on the mountain. He pointed to the bright stars in the sky and whispered in her ear, that is Mu Purple Seed. Tears fell suddenly. Muzi immediately lowered her head, and said in a stiff tone, I'm going to the bathroom. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 859. She didn't want to cry. Today is a good day for her. She won the lawsuit, gained the status of the president's daughter, and gained fame and power at the same time. She has accomplished a big event, so she should be happy. But she couldn't bear it. Sidhu Yan prepared for today's banquet for a long time. Muzi didn't want to disappoint Sidhu Yan, so he left in a hurry with the excuse of going to the bathroom. She supported the snow-patterned ceramic wash basin with both hands, and shed tears silently. She thought that a little venting would make her feel better, but the tears seemed to have no end, and her sad emotions gradually got out of control. She thought of Murongcheng carrying her on his shoulders to pick the pomegranates on the tree, and thinking of Murongcheng's hand in her mouth in the snow. Stuffed half a candied horse in it. I remembered that I went north to take the exam, and as soon as I got out of the train station, I saw Murongcheng standing in the warm light of the gentle sunset. The more she thought about it, the more her heart clenched tightly, as if it was about to break. Ah! Finally, unable to restrain the pain, crying overflowed from her throat. She squatted down slowly while supporting the sink, hugging herself and weeping unscrupulously. Even if he firmly believes that he is still alive. I firmly believe that they will meet again in the end, but the pain of parting is unspeakable, making a heart toss and tormented, it is almost life-threatening. Muzi didn't know how long she had been crying, but after she regained her composure, her calf was numb and she couldn't stand up. She was in the bathroom for a long time. When he came out, except for the slight redness of the eye sockets, nothing unusual could be seen. She washed her face and reapplied her makeup, and when she returned to the banquet hall, the banquet had come to an end. She is like a naturally noble and famous Shuyuan, sending off the guests who are leaving one after another gracefully. Tonight she is the focus of everyone's attention, praises and compliments are endless. This taste is actually easy to make people flutter, but Muzi's eyes have always been calm and peaceful. She is calm. The next day, Sidhu Yan and Chen Kailing sent Muzi to the airport together. This was something that was agreed at the beginning. Even though her identity is Sidhu Muzi, she can still choose to live with her adoptive mother by way. Fearing that she would be wronged, Sidhu Yan arranged for her a driver, bodyguards, attendants, and a steward. A total of 28 people accompanied Xinjiang, at her disposal. Muzi was a little moved. She is not short of money, what she lacks is available people. Muzi gently hugged Sidhu Yan, was silent for a moment, and said, "Thank you, Dad." Sidhu Yan's heart shook. He never expected that Muzi would call out this title, he just had the mentality of compensating as much as he could, but in the end, he still gained something. Sidhu Yan's calm and handsome face was tense due to unknown emotions. He felt his throat was dry and hoarse, so he didn't say anything, but lightly patted Muzi's head. Muzi boarded the special plane arranged by the presidential palace, and when she quickly entered the cabin door, she looked back and saw Sidhu Yan and Chen Kailing standing side by side in the distance. She suddenly understood why people often say that a father's love is like a mountain. That kind of feeling is usually silent, but no matter how far away, as long as you look back and see the majestic mountains behind you, you know that he will always be there, solid, deep, and reliable. After Muzi got off the plane, she called to tell Bai Wei that she was back. Bai Wei was very pleasantly surprised. In fact, she had always wanted to call to ask when Muzi would come back, but her status was too embarrassing to ask. Muzi was finally reunited with her relatives. Very bad. Bai Wei even thought about whether Muzi would stay in Jingling from now on and never come back. I can't think about it, it makes me sad when I think about it. Fortunately, Muzi finally came back. Bai Wei prepared a table full of dishes, all Muzi's favorite food, and then anxiously walked back and forth in front of the door, looking in the direction of the outer courtyard gate from time to time. Finally seeing Muzi's figure, Bai Wei's eyes turned red. Why are you so thin? Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 860. Are you thin? Muzi subconsciously raised her hand to caress her cheeks. Ever since she received the news of Huorong's death, she had been in a daze for more than a month. Only the days when she and Chen Nanfan were investigating the case were clear. I don't have much appetite every day, so I use ginseng and bird's nest to supplement myself desperately. I know in my heart that I can't break down. Even if I get a nosebleed, I have to live well and wait for him to come back. It looks better in thinner clothes. Muzi took Bai Wei's arm and said with a smile, and I know that I will definitely gain weight after eating the food my mother cooked, so I purposely lost a few kgs and moved in advance. Bai Wei felt sad and helpless. You child. Muzi smiled and asked, have you made that? Braised soybeans and pig's trotters in soy sauce, I really want to eat it. It's done. Bai Wei laughed at her daughter's gluttony. There are also pan-fried Argentine red shrimp and sweet and sour lotus root box. Mom, you're so kind. Muzi acted like a baby. When she was about to enter the house, she remembered the attendants behind her, and Muzi said to Bai Wei, Mom, Sidhu's family gave me some people, I want to make arrangements, you go in first. Bai Wei glanced at the mighty team behind Muzi, nodded, and obediently entered the room. Muse's manager, named Shen Kong, is a man in his 30s, of medium build, without a smile on his face, but looks very calm and reliable. Muzi handed him a card and explained, 8 people are enough to stay in the villa, and for the rest, you take them to Qingjiang Pier 10, where I have a yacht, you go there to settle down first. The yacht is empty now, and it can accommodate 40 or 50 people. Hire a group of crew and drivers as soon as possible, and I will go to the lower reaches of the Qingjiang River the day after tomorrow at the latest. The money in the card is for you to spend, and I will buy a few more cars by the way. Go out. Shen Guanqi said, Mr. President gave us the fee before we came. Raising so many people requires high expenses, and it is impossible for Sidhu Yan to leave them to Muzi and leave them alone. Muzi was silent for a moment, then still handed the card to Shen Kong, and said softly, then use the money to buy some clothes, it's my wish. Qingjiang is more humid than Jingling, remember to buy some regular medicines. Thank you, Miss. The steward went to make arrangements immediately. Muzi felt that the manager Sidhu Yan had chosen for her was very good, he didn't talk much, and had a steady temper. The steward left 8 people behind, 6 guarding the outside of the small Western-style building, 2 guarding the house, and the rest were taken away. Bai Wei turned her head to look at them from time to time, seeing that these people had guns pinned to their waists, she couldn't help but tremble with fear, and said to Muzi, is it very risky to be the president's daughter? Muzi comforted Bai Wei with a smile, Mom, this is called ostentation, ostentation. In fact, what she was guarding against was not the party that was hostile to the president, but the person she was guarding against was Huo Zheng. It has been more than a month since the incident. Has Huo Zheng accepted Huorong's death? Is he still searching for Huorong's body? Does he regret what he did? While eating the food, Muzi's mind wandered wildly. I almost forgot, let's drink this. Bai Wei suddenly remembered something, walked aside, took out a can of juice from the cardboard box and put it on the table. Your brother sent it back from abroad and said it was a Brazilian specialty, a kind called wild berry drink from Guarana. Patter. The chopsticks in Muzi's hand fell to the ground. Seeing her surprised, Bai Wei said, you are also shocked, aren't you? When he comes back, I must give him a good meal. He ran abroad without saying a word, and didn't even call back. Isn't this intentional to make people anxious? Is it? You are such an old man, and you are still so incomprehensible in doing things, oh. Musy Eye bent down and picked up the chopsticks without making a sound. Bai Wei took the chopsticks away from her hand, turned and went to the kitchen. I'll change a pair for you. Musy Eye was silent, and after a while, she got up and walked to the side of the cardboard box. There was still half of the International Express ticket stuck on it, and the sender was Murong Cheng. Murong Cheng, are you abroad?